I love Mad Max. He's pretty much the Aussie man with no name. And the Mad Max franchise is pretty much the Australian Fast and the Furious. Nothing makes me prouder to be Australian than Mad Max. Mad Max is the ultimate Australian export. The anti-Aussie pizza, if you will. Egg on pizza? Really? That's what we're gonna go with for our national pizza? Egg on pizza? That's gross. I don't know why pineapple gets such a bad rap. Pineapple is always at the top of pizza topping controversy. It's always getting treated like it isn't the delicious topping on pizza that it is. Egg, on the other hand, is never in the conversation, and yet egg on a pizza, super gross. And on that note, Mad Max rankings video? Number 5, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. This film is the third and final film in Mel Gibson's original Mad Max trilogy. To quote Sansa Stark's iconic line as Jean Grey from Apocalypse, well, at least we can all agree, the third one is always the worst. So true. Sansa Stark playing Jean Grey in an X-Men movie. so true. Oh, the delicious and beautiful irony of that line. But she's not wrong. At least in this instance when discussing Thunderdome. Thunderdome is a classic example of the third one just being so much worse than the other two. It is easily the worst of the original 3 films and a far cry from the modern spray tan orange Mad Max films. Sure, the first act has some great world building. Bartertown, Master Blaster, the big hair. It's all good stuff. And sure, the train chase sequence at the end is totally serviceable, I guess. But generally speaking, this film, in its entirety, really just feels like a toothless, child-friendly, PG, pale imitation of the Mad Max films that you grew to love from, you know, the good Mad Max films, the other ones, the other 2 films. This film is pretty much just Return of the Jedi. Strong opening act, strong conclusion, horrible middle act with a bunch of Ewoks. But replace Ewoks with children. So many children. Ugh, the film becomes so tedious, so boring. The momentum of the film just slows to an absolute crawl when Mad Max suddenly is just babysitting a bunch of children. A bunch of intolerable, unfunny, unlikable children. They have this horrible, weird slang made up kind of language. Like the whole film is obviously the weakest of the 3, but when the children rock up, it becomes almost unwatchable. I kind of hate this movie. Honestly, the only redeeming aspect of this film and the children in general is that it creates a really interesting contrast for the Ewoks in Star Wars. Like if you love Star Wars but hate the Ewoks, just watch Thunderdome and you will realize the Ewoks, like, they're not that bad. Because it could be worse. Like, way worse. Number 4, Mad Max. This film is so raw. Some of the most intense car chases and car crashes I've ever seen in any film. The film feels so visceral. It feels so dangerous. It feels real. Because it is. George Miller essentially ran out with 20 bucks and a bunch of friends and just crashed a bunch of cars into each other. And I find that truly delightful. It's a horrifying film. It feels so low budget that it makes other low budget films, even other low budget Australian films, which is saying a lot, feel like they have Hollywood blockbuster money. I absolutely love the pre-apocalypse setting of this film. Before the Mad Max world got a fake spray tan and turned orange. It was just rural Melbourne. I'm pretty sure I've driven down most of the roads that feature in this film. Is my love of this film mostly because this pre-apocalyptic Mad Max universe is like an hour and a half from where I've lived my entire life? Yes, if I'm being honest, yes, most of my enjoyment comes from the fact that when I think about post-apocalypses, America and Britain, they've got like 1 billion of them. Australia, we've got 1. We've got the Mad Max universe. And it started like 20 minutes that way. Like it's just local rural Melbourne. And I love that. But despite my obvious local bias, This film's pretty great. It is such an interesting film to watch as well when you have the context of like what George Miller has in mind for the Mad Max universe. Like now we're in a post-Fury Road world where we understand what George Miller wanted to do and how crazy and insane and just wild his imagination is for this universe. Seeing this kind of pre-apocalypse origin story for Mad Max is really interesting. Like, it's really interesting to see what he does with literally no money, but the idea is starting to form. I feel like this film doesn't get the love it deserves, and whilst I understand why people love Road Warrior so much more, I feel like this film has something very unique and special. It's just got a really interesting mood and tone, and it's oddly charming for a film that is so brutal and depraved. I really like it. It's fine. Number 3, Mad Max, The Road Warrior. When you think of Mad Max, and by that I mean when you watched a cartoon do a parody of Mad Max, you're thinking Road Warrior. What this film did for post-apocalyptic films and for sexy leather boys on bikes? Unquantifiable. Truly a genre-defining film. The costumes and vehicles in this film are all so spectacular and interesting and cool. The world of Mad Max is truly brought to life in full and fully defined in this film. Mel Gibson is great. His costume is great. His car is super great. Spectacular stunts, great world building, and a little feral boy with a boomerang, and he throws the boomerang and it hits a crazy biker weird guy in the face, killing him, and then he screams and does a weird backflip into a hole. What more could you possibly want? Oh, you want a film with a fake orange spray tan that eclipses this film in every conceivable way? Well, funny you mention that, because on an unrelated note, number 2, Fury Road. Stop! You're saying it all wrong. It's Furiosa, not Fury Road. Number 2, Furiosa. This film feels inferior in almost every conceivable way to Fury Road. But that's just because Fury Road is probably one of, if not the greatest action film ever made. I love every single aspect of Fury Road. It is just so incredible in every single way. The emotion, the heart, the action, the fact that it's so very orange. I love it all. And Furiosa is a really, really great film. And especially now with a couple of weeks past with like the box office numbers and how it's bombed so very badly, I kind of hate to say like anything negative because genuinely just love this movie. But just because like Fury Road came first like 10 years earlier, it's hard not to compare them in the universe because this is like the new Mad Max universe. The one where it's all orange, they all got a fake spray tan and it's just very orange. Unless it's at nighttime and then it's very blue. But yeah, despite the fact I love so very much of this movie, especially the cast, who neither of them I thought would be good in this universe, but are like the standouts, so very good. But the visual effects and the CGI just feels a little bit too polished. That's like my main issue. It kind of takes away from the dangerous nature and feeling of the stunts and the action for a lot of it, which is a little bit of a shame. And yeah, it's just like, it's not as good as Fury Road, but it's still better than like most Hollywood movies. Like if I was to do a rankings video for most action franchises, Furiosa would be at the top. Like most franchises would love to be so good that Furiosa would be second in their rankings and not number 1 by a mile. Yet Furiosa, I feel like, is second by a mile. Just because Fury Road is so good. But yeah, Furiosa, it's amazing, but it ain't no number 1 Fury Road. Yeah, this one's pretty good. There's a scene in this movie where a woman, like, yells at another guy and just says, Schlanger! I love this movie. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment below. And I would love to know what's your Mad Max rankings. I mean, obviously, Fury Road is the best one, but what's your ranking from 2 to 5?